Hey, welcome back to Eyes Open Podcast. It's been a while, but as you can see, there's a bit of an upgrade, and it's not just my host, but my guest. My guest here is Rishav Kanal. Say what's up, Rishav.
What's going on?
So today we're going to talk about his business. Rishav comes from an corporate experience of LinkedIn and SalesLoft to being a serial entrepreneur running different businesses. His main one is Old Town Curated. You may have heard of it, and you may have not. But if you haven't, that's what we're going to talk about. Not just about what the business is and what it does, but sort of how we're going to break down that business model and also address other businesses who could partner with Rishav to promote their respective businesses. Ready to get started?
Let's do it, man.
All right. I'm going to start with a very basic one. We're at a party. We're getting some drinks. You're talking to someone, and a classic DC question. Hey, bro, what do you do? How would you describe Old Town Curated?
Yeah, so I'm one of the founders of Old Town Curated, where I do all the research and pull in all the different things that's happening around the city that we live in. And every Thursday at 5:10, I send it out to thousands of residents. It's actually one of the fastest growing newsletters in Alexandria around the DMV. And I kind of describe it as like, you know, that friend that's always really plugged in, that sends you like, hey, we should go to this place or we should check this out. And you're like, how the heck do they know about this? It's kind of like having that friend, but they just live in your inbox.
That's a good friend to have.
That's a great friend to have, yeah.
Wow. So how did you stumble upon this?
Yeah, it was kind of a personal thing. Like, born and raised in Nepal, grew up in Nova, went to tech, and you know this, like I really wanted to leave after we graduated. So I was in Chicago for half a decade, like 5 years. And then my now fiance and I moved back to the area. My quality of life shot up dramatically. And when I was like reconnecting with all my friends, it was like Groundhog Day. Every single friend was like, dude, I like it here, but I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again, going to the same bars, doing the same itinerary Friday night. And I'm like, I love this area so much. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
Why do people feel like they have to leave when there's so many amazing things about being a tourist in your own city? So I just kind of randomly on a whim started doing the research, collected the information, and the first week sent it out to, you were on the list, like 14 people.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, the feedback I got, people were like, holy cow, this is amazing. This is so clean. This is packaged so neatly. This doesn't feel like noise in my inbox. Are you going to do it again? And then I did it the second week and the third week. And it's only been like 9.5 weeks, but now it's grown to 250 people reading it. And that's the subscriber base that's growing every week.
Nice.
So 200 people, it's growing by 250 subscribers every single week.
Nice.
With thousands of people reading it.
So if you had to give a rough range of subscriber count.
Yep. So it's right now we just crossed the 3,500 mark. And to put that in reference,
3,500. Wow.
If we lined up every single subscriber that joined a country club in Alexandria, it would be 11 times their max capacity.
Jeez. So, you know, the question asked, like, I get so many newsletters. You probably subscribe to like a Morning Brew, which I know doesn't have events. You have like the Washingtonian Mag, right? And then if I have Facebook for, 30 plus and whoever else that's using Facebook, how is it different than like a Facebook event group or any of that?
Yeah, so I'd say there are like two sides that you just mentioned. One bucket is the Morning Brews of the world. Those are great newsletters talking about things happening nationally.
Mm-hmm.
None of those things affect what happens when you leave the door and interact with the people in your community, right? It's business news. Sure, it makes you smarter, but doesn't help you in that regard. The other side, there are some older publications where it's just what I like to call a link vomit. You subscribe, and every single day they hit up your inbox with thousands of links that's so irrelevant. There's no taste, there's no craft.
Mm-hmm.
But they do tell you about what's going on in the community, but there's just so much noise. So for us, where we're different is we send it out once a week, only talking about events happening in and around Alexandria, and it's really clean and curated. So I go and do all the research. I spend hours combing through the Facebook groups, the newspapers, the local news, the stuff that people around our age just don't go through anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I compile it and do all the research and curate it in a clean way. So within a minute, you know exactly what your plans are going to be for that upcoming weekend.
So you're essentially developing a personality around this newsletter, right? I'm sure part of that must have been from your subscribers. Like, do they voice the type of activities they like? Like, what I want to know is, how do you prioritize which event is, oh, this is going to be a good one versus, like a bar crawl. Universal, but might not be your cup of tea that you'd promote.
Yeah, so when I started this, I planted a flag that I wouldn't include events that were just bar crawls. Can be fun, but I just think those are easy cop-outs. I really try and curate for events that's centered around wellness activities, luxury staycations, things that just recharge the batteries, because my community, hard workers, their day jobs are very stressful. So when Friday, Saturday, and Sunday comes, they want to do things that feel like their battery is back to 100% to get themselves ready for the upcoming week.
Gotcha.
So one aspect is I have that constraint and that sandbox. Does it fit the theme of luxury staycations, wellness, things that would recharge the batteries? If it does, great. The second piece is every time I send out the newsletter, and keep in mind it's going out to thousands of people every single Thursday, I get replies back. So one of the most recent replies I just got back is someone, this is awesome. She had just moved to the area from Chicago, and she's like, I love this so much. You make me feel less lonely about moving here. I'm looking to do more things with my girlfriends as well as things I can do with my dog. So now I've started to look for events that include like dog breweries, dog parties. A lot of people have their furry friends. So it's also the community tells me the type of events that they look for, and then I go out and do the research.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What's an event that you've been to that you're like, oh shit, that's a good one?
That's a good one. All right. So there's actually a bunch. There's one upcoming that I'm super excited about. I met the founder at a local Chamber of Commerce event. He is set to open his own retro arcade bar coming up.
What?
And he's just waiting on the permits now, but we're going to do a grand opening. That's the other thing that's been really exciting about this newsletter is I'm getting this side door access in meeting people, creating amazing things to make the place that we live in even better. So this guy, for example, I wouldn't have known him otherwise. And he's like, oh, you write this thing? Can you come in and talk about my venue? Just be super honest. I'll invite you to the grand opening. We're going to do a ribbon cutting. So that part feels cool. Super epic. The other one, F1 Arcade Bar, that just opened. Mm-hmm. That was a ton of fun. And then a few weeks later, I haven't gone yet, but it is on my to-do. There's a new darts bar that opened in DC.
Okay.
Think like the tech of F1, but throwing darts. And a couple of people that replied, they were like, this looks like a ton of fun for birthday parties, happy hour outings, and just like a random thing to do on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, that's cool. So I want to get into the business because someone from the commerce reached out to you.
Yep.
And you're mentioning before we're even having this conversation that you work a lot with businesses. But bringing it back to the consumer side, I am here consuming a newsletter. Before I even read it, how do I find you? Where are you most active, and how do people subscribe?
Yeah, so we actually keep it exclusive on purpose. What I don't want this thing to feel like...
exclusive, not like your Raya dating apps, more exclusive than that.
Hopefully. And I'm really intentional that the brand doesn't come across as something that is everywhere and feels like it's cheapened. Mm-hmm. So we've got our website. Right now, we mainly focus on our emails. We don't want to be perceived as you sign up, and every single day you're getting hit up with irrelevant noise. Every Thursday at 5:10, once a week. And I put all my effort into making sure that that week's content is the best that it could be, so that when you get home from work or you're shutting off the laptop because you work from home, you and your partner are kind of thinking about, what do I do, or what do I do with the kids? 5:10, 5 things happening around Alexandria, the subject line comes up. Within a minute, you know your plans for the weekend.
There you go.
Super
Ignore
exclusive.
the kids. 5:10.
Exactly. Yep. So go on the website, oldtowncurated.org, put in your email. But that's where we're really active right now, is building up our email list and keeping that community really exclusive.
Yeah. I mean, for keeping exclusive and still having over 3.5K subscribers, that must have been like very cool balance, because you're not just saying, you're not like the McDonald's of, hey, subscribe to this. You're probably not pumping a ton into social media ads even. You're probably like word of mouth. Like, this is what I do. If you're interested, let me know. And then I imagine there's a referral component to it, where
100%.
I subscribe, I like it, I'm sharing it with other people.
Well, that's part of the reason why it's growing by 250 readers every single week.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. Like, I asked and surveyed some of my readers what they were doing and how they felt about the newsletter. And one of them told me, well, I send the events that I find through you to friends of mine, asking them if they want to go. And then they're like, how did you hear about this? And then they're like, oh, I subscribed to this newsletter.
That's cool.
So it's a very curated way of bringing in an exclusive community, because I don't want to be the McDonald's of the local newsletter business.
Do you spend any like ad money on promoting this?
Yeah, so Facebook ads is how I primarily drive my marketing engine. But I make sure that the way the ads are created, it's targeting folks that have raised their hands saying, hey, I have hobbies and interests around these specific things. Some of it is kind of my special sauce that I don't want to reveal to let my competitors in. But Facebook is doing the marketing for me and finding those people that have those hobbies.
Nice.
That I want to make sure that the community is comprised of, right? Health, wellness, luxury staycations, you like the resorts, the finer things in life, like, cool. That's the people that I want to build thousands and thousands of.
And have you broken it down, like rough percentage of X percent of people come organically, these come through Facebook, these come through Insta?
Yeah, not yet. I mean, we only started this thing 9.5 weeks ago.
That's insane, dude. That's insane. Over 2 months.
Like, there's always
crazy.
There's always a path where we can, like, be a de facto data scientist and get fancy, but it is really taking off, where somebody from Instagram picked it up actually within my 3rd week, and he had spoken about the newsletter and the value that he got from it, that got 250,000 views. And then that led to more people. So right now I'm just having trouble keeping up with the demand, because so many people are subscribing to it. Good problem to have, that I'm like, I'm not worried about going into Excel, tweaking, filtering, doing all this. Like, my sole focus is just to be the best curator for the people in my community. Anything outside of that, I'm like, it's just a distraction for now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And honestly, I feel like there's a lot of businesses that once they start, especially in a newsletter business, their first thought is, how do I scale? And scaling is good, but when you try to think of everything as scale, you lose touch you lose a personalized touch,
100%.
I say that even in real estate, when I'm trying to build this business. I've been doing this for over 3 years. I'm thinking, man, this would be a cool idea to lead gen. I could throw money at the problem, but okay, if I'm scaling, I'm missing the mark on actually building a real connection or adding any value. I'm just checking the box and saying, I did this, I should scale. Others have done it, right? It unfortunately doesn't work like that. Or fortunately to an extent, but
Dude, I think part of the reason why this has been so successful compared to all the other projects I've started is because this is the project where I've been the most irrational. And I've said, of all the projects I've done where it's failed, what have I put into those projects that didn't take off because I thought it would because I planned properly? And I've tried to be really irrational. There's someone I really admire called Rory Sutherland. He is like a big ad director, works for Ogilvy.
Nice.
And he's like known as like the modern day Mad Men guy outside of all the cheating and the smoking. And he's like, so many people try to take the easy way out in trying to math their way to success with business. But when you're dealing with humans, everything is really irrational. Because if you gave someone the prompt of, hey, I want you, like, let's say you have a group of engineers and you said, hey, I want you to make this train track. And then they make it. The predictable thing for those engineers to do is to try and make the train go by really, really, really fast. But what you might have forgotten is, well, what if the people in that train were actually on a ride going to Disney? In which case, you actually want to make the train really, really slow because people don't want to rush their way to a vacation.
I like that.
Right? So you're just like these concepts where you're just inverting the problem. And that's what I've done here. So I'm like, instead of trying to over-engineer, instead of trying to over-excel, I'm just going to put out a landing page. I'm just going to throw up a few ads and see if it resonates.
Yeah.
And just like that, the demand's taken off.
And I mean, it makes sense because ultimately, when people aren't working, the culture in the DMV area is work. And if you're trying to be healthy and not drink, shout out to the sober Jan people. I think it's important to like, what am I going to do this week? People like that social camaraderie, and to what you were alluding to earlier, people like their batteries to be up. So it's kind of good to keep it simple because people are not decisive by nature. So if you overwhelm them,
exactly,
it's too much. Now, so you covered a lot on the consumer side. You started breaking down numbers. I want to pivot a little bit to the business partnership side.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You were promoted a business that was that you had met at the Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
And you talked about two of the buckets at least. I know before you mentioned there's like 4 buckets of partnerships that you care about. So any small local business owners that are in the DMV area, this is important because what are those 4 buckets, and how do you best promote them?
100%. So the newsletter, because I have thousands of residents reading it every single week and opening it in their inbox, and it's a highly engaged community, because of that nature, I have business owners in my inbox every single week hitting me up wanting to advertise. And I actually turn a lot of them down. So the type of businesses that we try to collaborate with and partner with fall into 4 categories: health, wealth, relationships, and lifestyle living. So if those businesses happen to provide a service directly to a resident within those themes, that's a perfect fit. Where we're not is, let's say you sell, $5 hamburgers and you just started your business yesterday. Like, there are probably better channels for you. The Old Town Curated just might not be the best fit. But if you happen to be a physical therapist or a financial advisor or a boutique real estate agent or someone who is a gardening designer, an architecture designer, like these like really luxury premium health, wealth, relationships, and lifestyle living, those 4 categories, it's the perfect match made in heaven.
Do you care about things like company size? Or what's the main criteria beyond just the buckets?
The lifetime value of their customer. So lifetime value is basically how much is that customer worth for that business owner. So for example, the architecture designer, one design project probably, depending on the size, can range anywhere from $5,000, $25,000, maybe even $100,000. Those are the best types of businesses because even just getting one sales from that pays for itself tenfold
Right.
from the newsletter. Where it doesn't and the math starts to break, and this is just marketing in general, is when the lifetime value is really, really low.
Yeah.
So suppose someone is getting their business off the ground and they sell artisanal spatulas, right? They just, they go to the farmer's market, they do it. But one spatula costs them, and they sell it for, let's say, $30. It's not a recurring purchase. So their lifetime value of that customer is maybe 30, maybe 40 if they buy it again, something like that. That's not enough for me to say, hey, come and invest thousands with us, because they're going to need to have hundreds of purchases just to break even.
So it sounds like you need either businesses that are more focused on services, unless it's a business that have products, but they're complementary products. Like you can't do one without the other, and you might need to keep stacking up on it. And maybe something that's more finite. Okay. And because the nature of these businesses can vary in probably size, I imagine it's not a flat fee. Keep me honest.
Yeah, it's all custom.
Okay.
I also set out from day one on the business side. So you'd ask, there are two groups basically. I'm kind of operating a marketplace. Mm-hmm. Think of Airbnb, right? Yeah. Airbnb caters to its residents and it also caters to its hosts. Old Town Curated does the same, just packaged differently. So one way I cater to my subscribers is from day one, the main product, i.e. that newsletter, is going to be free. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's going to change for a while, but it might, TBD, but I'm going to make sure that it is one of the best newsletters that people have subscribed to. That's one side of the marketplace. The other side of the marketplace are the business owners. Mm-hmm. So that's the side where there's kind of a crawl, walk, run model. The crawl is, if I get thousands of readers, that's level one. Level two is, because of those thousands of readers, business owners naturally are going to want to advertise their services to get in front of that audience. What I didn't want to do, going back to your question, was just make it a vomit of ads. So the custom work that we like to do is, give you an example. Let's say someone wants to have visibility for their boutique art store that's in Old Town. So rather than just say, hey, come visit my store, not really going to work. Well, what if instead we did some sort of an engagement on the newsletter where we have two pieces and people get to vote on which art they like the most, and it's a recurring segment.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there's a call to action at the bottom that says hey, if you want to see more pieces like this and visit the artist and talk about the work, go see this place.
Got it. Yeah, that's
so
cool.
It's very natively ingrained, and I do all that custom work. The owners don't have to think about that.
Yeah.
I come to the table with ideas. They just kind of get to choose which one they like.
Man, that's so cool, because I imagine Valentine's Day just happened. Partner with a boutique florist.
Exactly.
Hey, you focus on delivering. We'll have the catalog in the segment. Pick which set or combo you want.
Yep.
Don't get in trouble with your wife or girlfriend.
Yeah, we had a great segment actually for Valentine's. It's funny you mentioned that. The owner was a florist. Oh. So we talked about all the last minute Valentine's events that you could do with your partner. And then we injected her interview at the bottom of the newsletter. So it natively allowed people to feel like it wasn't an intrusive ad.
Yeah.
And so they see a lot of value because then people see it, they go to their website, they engage with their services. It feels like a trusted recommendation and not something that's interrupting their day-to-day.
And I'm sure this varies, but how long is typically your sales cycle with them? Customer or business inquires about potentially promoting their business. You scope, you vet, you do that.
Yeah, less than 2 weeks.
Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, less than 2 weeks. The only thing we just have to really align on is timeline. Are they pushing a certain campaign? Do they have a big event that they're doing? Because some people like to plan ahead. Some people are like, hey, I have an event this weekend. Mm-hmm. I haven't promoted at all. Can you do something and come in and save my thing? Yeah. Sometimes we can. Sometimes we can't do it and we have to turn business away. I don't accept anyone though. I'm very, very, we have high editorial standards for the type of collaborations that we do, because I don't want to ruin my relationship with the people that with the people that have trusted me with access to their inbox every single week.
Yeah. I mean, you're not just a newsletter, right? You are a center of consumer experience and engagement. You're curating experiences for that audience who exclusively join with you.
Yep.
But you're also curating the business partnerships that would be the most relevant. You're literally making a product fit here.
Well, I just know that if I continue to focus on the supply side, which are the people that read the newsletter, the demand will naturally come.
Yeah.
Like, that's the beauty of the marketplace business, right? Like, you mentioned I was at LinkedIn, and I like learned this from reading a lot of his books. They have built a gigantic business because they knew if they built the largest professional community ever, anything that they could start on the back end of that would be really successful because they had the supply side.
Yeah.
The demand would naturally come.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And it seems like it's going really well for 9.5 weeks. Now, I know we're coming up at time, so I want to ask you one more question. Tell me one of your, in 9.5 weeks you've been live, right? Tell me a customer success story. Like, one of your businesses partnered with you, how long was the sales cycle? What's their ROI been since promoting? Any numbers that you feel comfortable sharing?
100%. So within a day, I had one person who's a physical therapist for breast cancer patients. We'd plug them into an interview segment. Immediately once I sent it out, because of the work that they were doing, I got feedback from residents being like, oh my gosh, this person does amazing work. Immediately after, I ended up connecting her with someone who was like, hey, could you put me in touch with this business owner? Because I have a friend that's battling cancer right now, and I think her service would be phenomenal. That'd be great. So yeah, within one day, there you go. Here's a trusted referral.
That's awesome. Imagine that, getting a business within a day or a week even. That's huge. A new client makes up for a lot of the costs probably too that she spent with you. Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I know we have to wrap up here. How can people find you other than just my YouTube description? And you better subscribe. But apart from just YouTube description, how can people find you and subscribe to Old Town Curated?
Yeah, email is best if you want to get a hold of me and my team at oldtowncurated.org. If you want to go ahead and subscribe, oldtowncurated.org, just plug in your email. And like I said, once a week, it's not a lot of noise, but it makes you receive the most plugged in events happening. That way you know what your plans are for the upcoming weekend.
Amazing. Dude, thank you for the conversation.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're back, baby. We're so back. Tune in to the next one. Peace.